Hey, what's up? It's Vince Leah from VinceLeah.com, and I'm hanging out with Allison from the Food Heals podcast. How you doing today, Allison?
What's up, Vince Leah?
Allison runs an awesome podcast called Food Heals, and I wanted to introduce you to that podcast and also talk a little bit about Allison's journey of how you started incorporating plant-based foods into your life and the reason why you did that.
I was in college. I had a typical American life, eating the typical American diet. I was in school. I was happy enough, and I knew nothing about health. I didn't care about health. Health didn't have any place in my world, and then my mom got sick. My mother had suffered from multiple sclerosis since I was a baby, which is an extremely debilitating disease, but it takes a long period of time to develop and see the symptoms. At least in her case, it did.
Yeah.
So very slowly, over the period of years, she started to lose more and more abilities. But she was still a fully functioning person. It didn't seem like it was a death sentence.
Yeah.
But what happened was, she was on so many pharmaceutical drugs, to the point where that's all she did all day was take a drug, write it down, make sure she was taking the right one that didn't interact with the other one, that helped the side effects of the other one. It goes on. And then we got a cancer diagnosis. Well, now looking back, I can with pure confidence say, with the amount of pharmaceutical drugs that she was taking and the poor diet that we were eating, caused her to be toxic. But I couldn't see that at the time. Yeah. And so over the period of about a year and a half, we tried everything that the doctors had to offer us: chemotherapy, radiation, and experimental surgery. And unfortunately, nothing worked. And I lost my mom a month before I was graduating college. That definitely took a toll on me, and as I was grieving my mother, I started to look into alternative methods to healing the body, and I started to learn a little bit about nutrition. I was just dipping my toes, but I started realizing, oh my gosh, eating organic is really important. Food has the ability to either heal the body or kill the body. I read about people, and I started meeting people who had healed themselves, such as yourself, with stories like yours, through nutrition and through alternative medicine. And so I started to talk to my dad. I said, Dad, you're on all these drugs. You gotta get off of them. We gotta change your diet. We gotta see what lifestyle changes can we make. Well, he was a drinker, he was a smoker, so we know that doesn't fare well with anyone. And we also know that people that are drinkers and smokers don't usually want to give up their vice. And so it wasn't long before we got a diagnosis that he was sick as well. So it's a double whammy. I'm in my 20s. I'm like a little girl. I'm like, what's happening to mommy and daddy? Seriously. Like, I felt like a little kid that was losing everything. Over a period of time, my father was diagnosed with liver cancer, and his was more severe than my mother's had been. So there was less time to try to find a cure or to do anything. The same doctor that treated my mother treated my father with the same methods that were used on my mother: radiation, chemotherapy, and a different surgery, and nothing worked. All that happened was his life force was taken from him. I knew that there had to be another way, a better treatment. And so I found a holistic doctor in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, and he was like, listen, I can't promise you a cure, but have I helped stage 4 cancer patients reverse their condition? Yes. So he wanted to meet with my father. And in comparison to a doctor's office where you go in and it's like, you know, professional and everyone's in a white coat and a stethoscope, this guy's house was in the middle of the woods, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. To my father, it looked like, what the F are we doing? Why are we here? So we go in and he says, you know, there are people who have reversed this. I would put you on this cleanse. And what the cleanse does is it detoxes your body, because cancer is essentially this buildup of toxins, okay? And I know a lot of people are gonna argue with that, but essentially what it is your cells are attacking your body, and they cannot, they're replicating at such a fast pace that the healthy cells cannot survive, and so you're just slowly dying. And so, long story short, we left that place with a plan, and I was so excited to do the green juice and the garlic concoctions, and we got home and my dad was like, if you think I'm drinking that, you're nuts, as he smoked a cigar and drank his booze. I can laugh about it now. At the time, it was absolutely devastating. It was awful. And so here I am, little Miss Blondie, daughter, 20 years old, trying to cure my dad with some garlic shakes, and he was like, no. Sat me down and this is actually, what he said to me was very profound. He said, I don't believe in this, and it may work, but if I don't believe in it, it's not going to work. And I said, you're right.
A lot of power to that.
Yeah, and I still believe it to this day. If you don't believe in your healing, whether you choose chemotherapy, whether you choose an alternative route, whatever you're doing, if you don't believe it's going to work, it's not going to work. And so I had to learn that lesson at an early age. And since losing both of my parents to cancer, I've been learning how to grieve. I've been changing my diet, my lifestyle, and trying to live the most holistic lifestyle possible, but not living on a mountain saying, oh, I'm all day drinking green juice, so that's the only thing I do. I'm trying to live a really vibrant, impactful life, but at the same time, live my life and still have my wine and have my vices, but eat as nutritiously as possible, be as grateful as possible, be as loving as possible, so that this cancer doesn't happen to me, because obviously it runs in my family, which I don't really believe in that, but runs in my family, so I have to be extra careful, right? Yeah. So I'm being as careful as possible. That's what eventually, ultimately led me to the plant-based diet.
Wow, that's a powerful story, like, and everything that you've gone through. So you went through all of that. How long did it take you before you really wanted to start the podcast and reaching out to other people and educating others about what you've learned and what you've experienced?
It took years, to be honest, because I was on a journey of discovery for myself.
Yeah.
And I did keep meeting people, and I'm in the film industry, and I'm like, I want to get everyone on camera. So I would film a lot of interviews here and there, and I was just collecting as much as I could, putting them on YouTube, like Vince, but not as big of a YouTuber as Vince is, but just collecting those stories. And then eventually, I don't know why the audio thing came about. It just kind of happened. Like, it was divinely inspired that I was going to start this podcast, because I felt like I could interview a lot of people and get the message out a lot faster, so that other people could be inspired that, hey, this person healed themselves of not only cancer, but acne, let's say. Something minor, simple, because they gave up dairy. They could be inspired. I can do that too. Same with you. They can hear your story of healing colitis and go, oh, he did that. Maybe I can do that too. So it's really about inspiration and motivation, and realizing that there are alternative methods to healing yourself. And why are we outsourcing our health to doctors? We need to take responsibility for our own health.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to look at themselves, give themselves a self-audit, to be realistic with themselves, and figure out, like, where do I go from here? Because some things that people take, like, I'm still on some medications, and there are some conditions that you do need medications for, but I think the more people look into it, they realize that, okay, I don't need to have all of this. I could, supplement this, and actually it's a natural source. I'm getting it from food, and realizing that their life can be so much better when they do that.
Absolutely.
And people is taking those extra steps and educating yourself, talking to people, reaching out to people like you, and just making that extra effort and putting their healthcare in their own hands.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important.
I couldn't agree more.
So you've had some pretty amazing people on the podcast.
I think so.
Like, who have been some of your, you've had John Sally, you've had Joe Cross. Who else would you say have been, like, some of your favorite interviews that you've done?
My number one favorite, that you're never going to guess, but he was the best, and he's been on multiple times, is sitting right next to me. Okay, I had to do it.
Yes!
We've heard so many profound healing stories that I couldn't even pick a favorite, but I would say if someone were looking for what to listen to, I would say look at the description and look for something that you or a loved one might be suffering from, and then listen to that episode, because it might have a solution that you've never heard before. We've had holistic doctors on that are telling stories of patients that have healed things. We have regular Joes that aren't, a little bit famous, like Joe Cross or John Sally, that have done something phenomenal and are, they've healed themselves and now they're helping heal others. And so I think that if you want to check out the podcast, it's best just to find a topic that resonates with you.
How long have you been doing this podcast for now, Allison?
About 2.5 years.
2.5 years. How many people, like, have come up to you and, like, thanked you for doing this? And how many lives do you feel like you've impacted just by educating people about these different resources that are out there?
That's such a sweet question. I would say it's only a few people that have come up to us in person and said, like, wow, you really have helped me. We had a woman fly in for our 1-year anniversary party, and that was amazing. She was like, you have helped me, you're changing my life. So that was one of the most profound moments of my life. But It's on email and Facebook and on social media where people send us their entire healing story or like the healing story of their friend or their family member, and they're like, this is what I've done since your podcast. And so those moments are why we do this, because I want to affect as many people as possible, because I know what happened to me isn't rare, right?
Yeah.
We know, everyone knows someone with cancer or with a debilitating degenerative disease that they don't know how to get over, whether it's diabetes or something that Western medicine says is incurable. Well, there's so much we can do with diet, nutrition, and lifestyle, and our emotional, mental attitude that can change everything. And so when people write those emails or they find us on social media, I am just like blown away. I'm like, oh my God, like it's not me. It is the stories of the people that we're interviewing that are profoundly making these differences.
That's amazing. And I think that's why we all do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to reach somebody. And if you affect one person, that means this has all been worth it.
Well, why do you do it? Because you healed yourself. Yeah. And you can inspire all of these other people. Who's talking about colitis?
Yeah.
You are. It's like, okay, this is the go-to. If I know anyone with that, I'm like, Vince Lee, everybody.
All right, Allison. So one question for you.
Okay.
You've had this amazing journey. You've gone through a lot with everything you've experienced with your family. What is the biggest resistance that you hear from people? Because it's hard for people to sometimes want to make that extra effort and do the research and educate themselves. Like, what is that biggest resistance, especially when you're trying to tell somebody to have a green juice? Mm-hmm. Especially if they've never had a green juice before. They're going to be like, I'm not having that. Just give me my McDonald's. So what's the biggest opposition that you face from somebody?
I can't give up cheese. That's what they tell me. And I get it. Cheese is delicious. It's also extremely highly addictive. Yeah. So there's a reason that people are obsessed with cheese. And luckily for us who are in the plant-based world, there are so many delicious cheeses out there these days. There didn't used to be, okay? But now there is. Yeah. And so I like to try to showcase people delicious cheeses that I eat. And so whenever I have a party or people come and gather at my house for any reason, I make an amazing cheese plate. It's got Miyoko's, it'll have Yvonne's, it'll have Kite Hill, whatever cheese I have on hand. And people either don't know it's vegan or are like, this is so delicious. And I brought it to Thanksgivings, I've had it at my Oscar parties, I've had it at my birthdays. And so I think you asked me about resistance. People don't want to go vegan. Well, I'm not telling anyone to go vegan. I went vegan because that is what works for me and my body and makes me feel like I'm thriving every day. But I say just add more plants to your diet and you'll be healthier. But then everyone wants to go, well, I want to go to the next level, but I could never go vegan because I can't give up cheese. So I think the whole thing, bringing it back, is just like, okay, you can give up cheese, but you don't have to. Just eat less cheese and eat more vegetables, and you're going to see a significant change in your health.
And I think you'll be surprised too. Like we actually worked together on another video that's on my channel when we went to VaynerMedia here in LA, and we had a bunch of vegan cheeses. And we're at a place. It's a corporate place.
Yeah.
It's a work environment. We were there at a health fair, and we spoke, and then we did some food demos, and we brought some vegan cheeses in there, and people were blown away. Yeah. They're like, "There's no way this is vegan. Like, how is there not dairy in here?"
I know. That was Yvonne's. She's the best. I'm obsessed with her.
So cool. Well, hey, Allison, thanks so much for joining me today and sharing your story and information about the Food Heals podcast. So I'll go ahead and make sure all of Allison's information and links to her podcast is in the description box below. So make sure you go check that out. And you actually have a partner you usually do the podcast with. She can't be here today. Her name is Susie.
Susie Hardy. She's my co-host. She's wonderful. So I'm like the vegan person and she's like the alternative medicine person. We do the podcast together. It's once a week. It's every Tuesday. We're now doing a lot of speaking engagements. We're going to Sundance. We're doing all kinds of cool things. So check us out at foodhealsnation.com.
Make sure you follow her. I'll link all her social media and links to her podcast are in the description box below. And leave me a comment. Let me know, what is your biggest challenge with food? And what's your biggest vice, the biggest obstacle you're facing? And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel as I post new videos every week. And remember to keep living fit from food. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.